storm brewing in her heart. The lights in the living room glowed softly, and she immediately noticed her parents waiting there, their postures a mix of concern and expectation. Her father, tall and imposing yet tender in moments like these, stood as she entered. Without a word, he crossed the room and wrapped her in a firm embrace. The gesture caught her off guard, and for a moment she stiffened before relaxing into his arms. "Welcome home," he said, his deep voice tinged with quiet understanding. She clung to him briefly, drawing comfort from the fond display of affection. When they pulled apart, her mother approached, her soft eyes scanning Sicil's face with worry. She brushed a strand of hair from Sicil's cheek. "How did it go today?" her mother said gently. "Do you want to talk?" Sicil hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. "Not tonight," she murmured. "I'm just tired." Her father's brow furrowed as he exchanged a glance with her mother. There was no mistaking the tension in Sicil's posture, the way her shoulders slumped as though she carried the weight of the world. "Sit," her father said, motioning to the couch. "Just for a moment." Sicil hesitated, then obeyed. She perched on the edge of the sofa, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her parents sat beside her, her mother reaching for her hand while her father leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I know you are struggling," her father began. His tone was steady, almost commanding. "And while I don't expect you to share everything, you're my daughter, Sicil. If you're hurting, I want to know." Her throat tightened and she fought the tears that threatened to spill again. "It's complicated." Her father sighed, leaning back. "It always is, isn't it? Love, choices, people. It's never as simple as we want it to be." He paused, his expression softening. "Is this about Ethan or Sebastian?" At the mention of their names, Sicil's composure cracked. She let out a shaky breath, nodding. "It's about both." Her mother's grip on her hand tightened. "Oh, sweetheart," she said softly. "We had a feeling, but tell us, what's going on?" Sicil struggled to find the words, her gaze fixed on a spot on the floor. "I love them both," she admitted finally, her voice breaking. "And I've tried so hard to ignore it, to make a choice, but it's tearing me apart." Her father's face hardened slightly, the disapproval he had often voiced about Ethan flickering in his expression. "Ethan, he's been good to you," he acknowledged, though the words came reluctantly. "But I always believed Sebastian was the one who truly understood you. I saw it in the way he looked at you even when he was younger." "Dad," Sicil interjected, her voice trembling. "This isn't about who's better or who you think is right for me. It's about how I feel, and right now, I don't even know that." Her mother spoke up, her tone soothing. "Your father only wants what's best for you, Sicil. We both do, but we know that ultimately this is your decision. No one can make it for you." Her father sighed heavily, his expression softening as he looked at his daughter. "I'll admit," he said, "I wasn't thrilled when you chose Ethan. It wasn't because I thought he was a bad man. He's not. It's just that. He wasn't who I imagined for you. But Sicil." He hesitated, his voice growing gentler. "If he's who makes you happy, I'll accept it. Just as I would accept Sebastian, if that's where your heart leads you." Sicil's tears finally spilled over at his words. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't want to hurt them or you." Her father reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Happiness isn't about avoiding hurt, Sicil. It's about finding what's right for you. If you can look inside yourself and find that answer, we'll stand by you no matter what." Her mother nodded, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "You have our love always. That will never change." For the first time that evening, a small flicker of hope warmed Sicil's chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what I'd do without you both." Her father gave her shoulder a reassuring squeeze before standing. "We'll be traveling for work tomorrow," he said, his tone practical once again. "But we'll be back by the weekend. If you need us, just call." Her mother kissed her on the forehead. "Get some rest, sweetheart. We'll talk more when you're ready." As they left her alone, Sicil sat in the quiet living room, their words echoing in her mind. For all the confusion in her heart, their unwavering support was an anchor she desperately needed. She wiped her eyes and retreated to her room, where she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to untangle the emotions that swirled within her. The night stretched on, but for the first time, Sicil felt she might find her way through the storm, one step at a time. Sebastian sat in his dimly lit room, the book in his hand, a forgotten prop in a scene dominated by his thoughts. He stared at the same sentence for the 11th time, the words dissolving into a meaningless blur. A sigh escaped his lips as he shut the book with a soft thud, his frustration mounting. The silence of the night felt oppressive, amplifying the turmoil in his heart. A gentle knock at the door pulled him from his spiral. Before he could answer, his father, Arthur, stepped in, his presence calm, yet commanding. He took one look at Sebastian's weary expression and knew his son was grappling with something heavy. "Can't sleep?" Arthur asked, his voice low but perceptive. Sebastian shook his head and placed the book on the bedside table. "Not really." Arthur pulled up a chair, sitting across from him. "What's on your mind, son?" Sebastian hesitated. His father's sharp gaze felt as though it could pierce through his defenses. Finally, the dam broke and the words tumbled out. "I've been a fool, Dad," Sebastian admitted, his voice laced with regret. "I thought distancing myself from Sicil was the right thing to do. I convinced myself that focusing on the family business, on everything else, was what mattered. But I see now what it cost, her. She's spent years feeling unloved, and I can't take that pain away." Arthur leaned back slightly, his expression both contemplative and understanding. "It sounds like you've been carrying this guilt for a while." Sebastian nodded, his hands clasped tightly together. "I thought I was protecting her. From the chaos of my life, from my inability to be the man she needed. Instead, I pushed her away and made her feel like she didn't matter. And now, it might be too late. She's torn, and it's my fault." Arthur regarded his son thoughtfully, his face softening. "Sebastian, we all make choices we believe are right at the time. But life has a way of teaching us that the things we think are sacrifices can sometimes cause more harm than good. The question is, what are you going to do about it now?" Sebastian met his father's gaze, his voice unsteady. "I don't know. Part of me thinks I should leave. Let her be with Ethan if that's what makes her happy. But the other part, the part that still loves her, wants to stay, to fight for her, even if it's not what she chooses in the end." Arthur sighed, his eyes briefly clouded with a distant memory. "You know," he began softly, "you know when I lost your Uncle George, it felt like the ground beneath me had disappeared," he began, his eyes clouded with a distant memory. "He wasn't just my brother, he was my best friend, the kind of bond we had. It's hard to put into words. Losing him didn't just hurt, it shattered me. Every memory, every laugh we shared, it all felt like a cruel reminder that he was gone." Sebastian shifted uncomfortably, the raw emotion in his father's voice both touching and unsettling. He'd rarely seen Arthur open up like this. "But do you know who held me together?" Arthur continued, his voice softening. Sebastian shook his head, though he had a feeling he knew the answer. "Your Aunt Jasmine," Arthur said, his expression warming. "She had every reason to break down herself. George was the love of her life, her partner in everything. But she didn't try to fix me or force me to move on. She didn't make me feel weak for mourning. Instead, she showed me a kind of strength I didn't know was possible." Arthur paused, his gaze distant but fond. "She faced her grief head-on, but she didn't let it define her. She didn't try to forget George. No one could ever forget him. But she made a choice, to treasure the best of him and use those memories as her strength, not her sorrow. She built her life for herself and for the kids, not because she stopped loving George, but because she kept loving him. That love didn't fade, it transformed. It became her foundation for moving forward, and of course you were there at every step to support her and guide her, and I couldn't be more proud of you." Sebastian's throat tightened as he listened. He had always admired Aunt Jasmine, but hearing this from his father cast her resilience in a new light. Arthur leaned forward now, his voice steady and sure. "Does she still love George? Absolutely. She'll never stop loving him. But she's accepted that her life had to keep going, even without him physically by her side. And because of that, she's found happiness again. She's built a life that honors his memory, not one that's trapped in it. Sebastian swallowed hard, trying to process the weight of his father's words. You're saying she didn't let grief hold her back? Arthur nodded. Exactly. She didn't let her love for George become a chain. It became a compass. It guided her to the kind of life George would have wanted for her. He placed a firm hand on Sebastian's shoulder. Son, if you truly love Sicil, you need to understand this. Love isn't about holding someone so tightly they can't breathe. It's about being strong enough to let them make their own choices. If Sicil chooses to walk a path without you, it doesn't mean your love was meaningless. It means it was selfless. And if she chooses you, it means she's ready to build something new together. Not out of guilt or obligation, but out of love. Sebastian felt his chest tighten. But what if I lose her? What if she decides not to choose me? Arthur's gaze was unwavering. Then you honor what you had with her, just as Jasmine honors what she had with George. You carry the best of her with you, and you let that be your strength. Because love, real love, doesn't end. It changes, but it stays with you. Sebastian nodded slowly, his father's words weaving their way into his heart. As Arthur stood to leave, he gave his son one last piece of advice. Sleep on it, he said. And remember, whatever you decide, I'm proud of you. Not for the choices you make, but for the man you're becoming. Good night, Dad, Sebastian said softly, watching his father retreat down the hallway. As the door clicked shut, Sebastian leaned back in his chair, his thoughts a little less tangled. He wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, he felt like he had the clarity to face it.